Hi everybody and welcome back to my little YouTube channel. If you're new to this channel, my name's Amanda. I'm a diagnosed autistic adult. I'm 40 years old and I was diagnosed a few years ago. In these videos I'm hoping to help somebody who might be autistic, or indeed you might be waiting for an autism diagnosis. The waiting list for an autism diagnosis in the UK can sometimes be an incredibly long time, and actually I waited just over 3 years for an autism diagnosis. And in the meantime, while you're waiting, it's just good to get a little bit of support and advice, and just to know that you're not on your own. There's other people out there who also have autism, so hopefully these videos will help you. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about some of the common struggles that autistic people experience on a day-to-day basis. So, without further babbling, let's get on with the video. So one of the most common struggles that autistic people face on a day-to-day setting is sensory overload. Autism is a neurodevelopmental disability. It's a genetic condition, which means we're born with it and we have it our entire lives. And autistic people are particularly affected by sensory overload, and that could be the bright lights of shopping centres, the loud sudden noises of, for example, a car horn beeping, to the tastes and textures of different foods. And all of these things combined can sometimes be really overwhelming to autistic people, and it can lead to sensory overload. I think one of the main debilitating symptoms that affects me as an autistic person is anxiety, and I'm sure if you're watching this and you have autism, or indeed you're waiting for an autism diagnosis, or you might already have anxiety or depression, then you can relate to the anxiety part of it. And that's something that affects every single aspect of our lives, from the moment we wake up in the morning to the moment we go to bed at night. And it can make it really difficult just leaving the house and going into an employment setting or socialising with other people. And I think a lot of that is combined with the sensory overload aspect of it and the unpredictable nature of life itself. The routines and rituals that we like often change all the time when we're outside in the real world. So a lot of autistic people tend to isolate ourselves and stay indoors as a result. A lot of autistic people struggle with something called executive dysfunction, and what that means is our ability to organise our thoughts and put them into activities. So for example, we might start on one task and we might stop and then start on another task, or it might take us a really long time to begin tasks in the first place, and sometimes we just can't find the energy and we can't get our mind together in order to complete certain tasks, and often we can be late for appointments. That's a real common one that affected me. When I worked in the health service, I was often late for work, and my managers thought that I was just really lazy or that I just wasn't motivated to do that position, when actually it was part of my disability, and I found it incredibly difficult sort of motivating myself and getting my thoughts together every morning to push myself to get ready for work, to brush my teeth, to brush my hair, to get dressed, to have a shower, to make that car journey. And throughout that process of executive dysfunction, I think one of the main contributing factors is this relentless anxiety and worry about the tasks that we're about to perform. And so we can ruminate. That means that we can go over and over and over thoughts and feelings and worries and anxieties, and it can lead to repetitive, almost like an OCD, an obsessive compulsive rumination of thoughts and feelings with regards to completing a particular task, and that can delay us or indeed stop us from completing the task altogether, and it can make us either be late to work or just not turn up at all. Autistic people can be incredibly sensitive to loud noises. I can give an example of that, and that is sort of the loud traffic noises when somebody goes shopping, for instance, or when they're travelling to work in the morning, and the sudden beeping of car horns can be really anxiety provoking, and I know in me they can lead to almost like a startle response. And that can happen in a work setting or like a university setting or any life setting. People at work, when I used to work in the NHS, sometimes they wouldn't even knock on the door, they'd just barge in, and that barging of the door would lead to a startle response, and it would set me up for incredible anxiety for the rest of the day. Autistic people are incredibly good at worrying, and that is the anxiety part of it. And that can lead to something called rumination or anxiety rumination or thought rumination. Rumination or ruminating means going over repetitive worrying and repetitive negative thoughts over and over again in our minds that I just said before. And you can just imagine that if we've been in a work scenario, for instance, or a social gathering, when we come home or come away from that situation, we don't just automatically switch off from that setting, from that work, from that social situation, from that gathering, that party, whatever it might be. We go over and over and over in our minds, I do anyway, what I've said to people, how people have responded to me, what has my body language been like, have I said something that I might have have I done or said something that might have upset somebody, did I seem okay? Did I come across as being neurotypical? Do you think people knew that I was autistic? And all of these worries, ruminations, go round in my head constantly, especially when I go to bed at night. A lot of autistic people, when we go to bed, when we try and switch off like other people do and have a rest ready for the next day, that's when our ruminations and our anxieties and worries set in about how we've maybe come across to other people during the day. And that can lead to a lack of sleep, because we can start worrying and then worrying on top of worrying, and then that can lead to more anxiety in the morning, and then more anxiety can lead to more meltdowns, and then we can worry even more the next night, and it's like a snowball effect. So you can just imagine, we don't just switch off like everybody else at the end of the day, we ruminate over everything. A lot of autistic people, we do something called stimming, and we do that in order to self-soothe or regulate our emotions and thoughts and feelings. Stimming can be lots of different things. Mine's twirling my hair, and it's something that I have to do because it's fundamentally important to my emotional health and indeed my physical health and well-being. And unfortunately, sometimes stimming can lead to injury. So if somebody, say for example, stims by banging their head on something, other people might look at that and think that is a negative thing. That person might be doing it to sort of regulate their emotions. It all comes down to pain perception and the emotional side of it, and it can be really difficult for people that don't have autism to understand it. But sometimes having these particular behaviours can lead to injury, and so it can be a negative thing for the autistic person. So although a lot of stimming is a positive thing, just monitoring the autistic person and just trying to advise them or trying to put things in place to prevent injury can just be essential. A lot of autistic people, we really struggle to understand the thoughts, feelings, emotions, and indeed the intentions of other people. And while most people on the planet are good people and they have positive intentions for others, their fellow neighbours, we always have to just be a little bit mindful of that small minority of people that could mean us harm. And autistic people can be particularly vulnerable to the ill intentions and the ill intent of the small minority of people out there. So if you know an autistic person, a child, adolescent, or even an adult, just know that they are vulnerable people by definition, and just keep your eye out for them and just try and educate us as best as possible, especially online and communicating with other people. and tell them that although most people are fantastic people by nature, there are some people that might mean us harm. Because don't forget, autistic people are incredibly trusting people, and it's always good to have your guard up. And that brings me to understanding other people's emotions, and that can be something that autistic people, myself in particular, can really struggle with. We can really struggle to understand if other people are happy or they're sad, for example, and sometimes it can get us into trouble. A lot of the time, autistic people mask, where we put this act on in order to intentionally mask our autistic traits and come across as being neurotypical. And unfortunately, it can lead to problems because other people can think that we understand them when indeed we don't. So understanding the thoughts, feelings and intentions of other people can be incredibly challenging for autistic people. A lot of autistic people struggle incredibly with maintaining eye contact. I struggle with this so much. I had to go to hospital the other day because I'd cut my finger because I'm really clumsy. Autistic people can be incredibly clumsy, and I'll come on to that in a bit. If I don't, then I've said it now. Autistic people can be incredibly clumsy, just in case I forget. And I had to go to hospital, and the nurse was talking to me. And I struggled so much in that situation to maintain eye contact because I was feeling incredibly anxious. And I think when we're feeling anxiety, it can make eye contact worse. I don't know about you, but it does for me. And so I feel like I'm having to look down more, or I'm having to break eye contact. If it was up to me, I wouldn't make eye contact at all. But I have to, because obviously it's socially acceptable to maintain eye contact as part of non-verbal communication when you're talking to somebody. Otherwise people think that you're just not engaged with them, or you're just not interested, or you're bored, and it can come across as being abnormal to people for some reason. It can be really difficult for autistic people to look somebody in the eye when they're telling us something, giving us information, for example. When I'm looking people in the eye, I'm often not concentrating on what they're saying to me properly because I can't do two things at once. I'm thinking about maintaining eye contact more than I'm thinking about what somebody's saying to me. So I often miss vital information. And I think eye contact is one of the biggest ones up there with regards to my struggles and autism. Autistic people can really struggle with social interaction, so being around groups of people and sometimes just leaving the house. There are many days where I feel so anxious that I just can't leave my house. I can't exit my front door because I'm worried about other people talking to me and communicating with me and having to make small talk and interact and conversation, and feeling like I don't fit in and I'm not part of the group, and that little bit of jigsaw puzzle that just doesn't quite fit at the end of the puzzle. I feel like I'm having to mask constantly, and everything just goes wrong when I try and interact with people. Although it might come across with other people I'm interacting fine, to me I'm constantly worrying and anxious about what my body's doing and where I'm looking and what I'm saying, and I sort of can't enjoy the social interaction as a result because I'm invested too much in my own behaviour. I hope you understand what I mean by that. And so I tend to, a lot of the time, avoid social interaction altogether. Although you might see me looking into this camera and talking to you and coming across as being extremely confident now and in public, I'm not. I'm talking to a camera, I'm essentially talking to myself. I can see my own reflection. And while I'm talking to this camera, I'm not taking any notice of other people. It's been a lifeline for me, it really has. I'm hoping along the way it's going to help one of you guys out there as well. And it also might benefit you as well, like grab a camera and make a vlog and talk about your life and your struggles and your autism. It really helps to focus and concentrate on something like this camera or a phone, and then it takes your mind off focusing off other people, and at the same time it gets you out into society, which is something that I've not otherwise been able to do before. A lot of autistic people have special interests or highly focused interests. I have had so many different special interests over the years, and sometimes it can just be one, or it can just be loads of different special interests, and sometimes I can have loads of special interests going on all at the same time, and they can sort of overlap. And that's a real positive thing, and I've gone into that in another video. But it can also be a little bit negative, because while we're studying our special interest, or we're learning or reading or watching a video on our special subject, we can forget to eat, or we can forget to have a shower, or we can forget deadlines, and so we can be late to work and appointments. And so it can lead to self-neglect in many ways, because everything else sort of goes behind us, and we put our special interest at the forefront of everything we do. And so just looking out for your loved one and just trying to advise them, there's a fine line between having a special interest and having it take over your life and affect your life and affecting other people around you as well. So while it's really positive having a special interest, there's negatives that come with it too. And a lot of autistic people, we struggle so much getting a job and then maintaining a job. I've done a video about that. Whether it's been released yet, I don't know, but check it out. We struggle so much going through the job interview process and then trying to come across as being neurotypical in an alien-like world. And it can be really, really challenging for autistic people. So maintaining full-time employment is something a lot of autistic people we try to do, and it's not that we don't want to. You hear so many people saying get a job, or you're diagnosed with autism because you don't want a job, and that's not the case. We try so hard. I was in full-time employment for nearly 20 years and I was diagnosed with autism, and it all went a little bit pear-shaped after that because of, in my opinion, a misunderstanding. So it can be really challenging. I'm going to keep that clip in with the dog. That was so cute. A lot of autistic people can repeat words and phrases. So if you're having a conversation with an autistic person, we might repeat back what you've said to us. So for example, if you say to me, "Oh, your dress looks gorgeous, it's so nice," I might say to you, "It's so nice." And you might sort of take a step back and think, what's she talking about? Why she just repeated back what I've said? Or you might think I'm being funny, or that there's something not right with me. When the reality of it is, I'm literally just processing what you just said to me. I might repeat words back because I'm processing that information in my head, ready to give you an answer back. So, although it's a perfectly natural thing for us to do, echolalia, it can be a disadvantage to us. I can't talk, it's so cold. It can be a disadvantage to us because it can exclude us from social situations. And of course, all of these things combined can lead to social isolation, and you can understand why. We are met with the outside world, the sensory challenges, the bright lights, the sounds, having to mask, especially autistic women and females that haven't yet been diagnosed with autism. We're having to mask every single day, every single minute, every aspect of our lives in order to come across as being neurotypical or that we don't have autism. Having to cope with the challenges of social interaction and mingling with people and not understanding the thoughts, feelings and intentions of others. All of what I've just said can be so incredibly challenging for us every single day that a lot of autistic people, we just withdraw and we avoid social interaction altogether. And it can be incredibly isolating. And although you might see autistic people that prefer our own company and we spend time on our own, I just want you to know it can be incredibly isolating and we can be incredibly lonely as a result. hope you guys have enjoyed this little video. I don't want you to think that autism is just a negative diagnosis. I've done a little video, check it out. If it's not out now, it will be out soon. Autism obviously is a disability, and there are disadvantages of autism like any other disability. You don't have to have a disability to have things that affect you negatively in life. Negativity and we all have our things that we're good at and things that we are bad at in life. That's just part and parcel of existence. And I don't want you to think that autism is innately negative and everything that we experience in life is negative, because it's positive as well. And some of the positive things that go alongside autism are incredible. Check out my other video when it comes out. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, please consider hitting like, commenting and subscribing, and I shall see you for my next vlog. Cheerio. That dog was so cute.